for dialogue with Washington is still not known. Even after setting a hostile atmosphere with its latest import tariff push, the United States goes one step further, ensuring anti-dumping and countervailing duty investigations continue. South Korean competitors of the Winter Paralympics unpack at the Athletes' Village. They will be fine-tuning their skills as the global event in Pyeongchang begins this Friday. News Center begins now. Hello and thanks for tuning in to our special edition of Arirang News Center. I'm Daniel Che. You will notice that we are starting a little bit earlier than our regularly scheduled hour. Other than providing you with the scheduled coverage, we will be taking you shortly to the nation's top office of Cheongwade for the hotly anticipated announcement of what President Moon Jae-in's special envoys managed to accomplish during their two-day visit to North Korea. It's an exciting time in the history of inter-Korean relations. A lot of firsts in a matter of days. We go straight to the Chunchugan in Cheongwade.
I would like to thank all the citizens of South Korea for your support. During the visit to the North Korea, I met with the leader Kim Jong-un, and we spent 4 hours together. And I delivered President Moon Jae-in's letter to him, and we shared in-depth diverse issues on the Korean Peninsula. And to this, two Koreas agreed and shared strong intentions to build peace on the Korean Peninsula. Kim Yong-chol, the head of the United Front Department, and other head officials of the North Korea also showed intentions to engage in talks, detailed talks. And we agreed on the following issues. First, South and North Koreas agreed to hold in end of April in Panmunjom a third inter-Korean talks, and we agreed to hold further working level talks. And second, South and North Koreas, in order to alleviate military tensions on the Korean Peninsula, agreed to establish hotline, and we will initiate our first call before the third inter-Korean talks. And third, the North Korea showed strong intentions for denuclearization on the Korean Peninsula, and it also clearly stated that there is no reason to have nuclear when we secure that there are no military threats on the north. And fourth, the North Korea also agreed that it will engage on talks with the United States candidly. And fifth, during the talks, North Korea clearly showed that it will not engage in further provocations, including the nuclear tests, MSL tests. And together with this, it confirmed and agreed that it will not use conventional and nuclear weapons towards South Korea. And sixth, in order to secure the Pyeongchang Olympics, the North Korea agreed to send the Taekwondo team and its artist team to Pyongyang. And the South Korean government sees that the visit provided a platform for future talks on the Korean Peninsula, and we will engage in future talks. And together with Seo-hoon, the head of the National Intelligence Service, I will soon visit the North Korea to explain the outcome of the talks. And we will also visit China and Russia. And Seo-hoon, he will also visit Japan soon. And with this, we will gather international support, and we will develop the inter-Korean relations further forward. And thank you very much.
All right, there you have it. Let's now delve deeper into where the envoys went and what they did during their two-day stay in Pyongyang. Plus, we also turn to an expert analysis on North Korea's handling of the meeting. Hee-jung fills us in.
The South Korean envoys weren't completely sure of what they'd be doing or when before embarking on their two-day journey to North Korea, but it seems they were able to meet with the highest levels of the regime's leadership. According to South Korea's presidential office, the envoys landed Monday afternoon at Sunan International Airport in Pyongyang, where they were met on the plane by Lee-hyun, an official from North Korea's ruling Workers' Party. Lee belongs to the United Front Department, the intelligence arm of the Workers' Party leadership. Then they were greeted at the airport by Lee Sung-won, chairman of the Committee for the Peaceful Reunification of the Fatherland, and another senior official from the United Front Department, Min Kyung-il. The envoys then moved to a resort at Mount Gobang in the North Korean capital at around 3:40 p.m. There, they were met by the head of the United Front Department, Kim Young-chul, the same official who attended the closing ceremony of the Pyeongchang Winter Olympics in South Korea last month. They discussed the details of the two-day itinerary and were invited to dinner with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un. Finally, at 6 p.m., the envoys met Kim for the dinner at the headquarters of the Workers' Party. They were also joined by the leader's sister Kim Hee-jung, his wife Lee Seol-ju, and his chief of staff Kim Chang-son. Kim's wife is rarely seen at diplomatic events, so experts interpret her presence as a way for Kim to try and show the world that his regime is, in a sense, normal. The 10-member delegation held another meeting with North Korean officials on Tuesday before heading back to South Korea. Judging from the initial reports, experts say there is a noticeable difference in the diplomatic approach taken by the regime's current leader compared to his father.
Kim Jong-il was a reclusive leader who kept South Korean envoys on the edge of their seats, but Kim Jong-un has been greeting our envoys very proactively. The fact that they had dinner at the headquarters of North Korea's ruling Workers' Party is unseen.
The expert adds that although it's hard to predict whether this will lead to dialogue between Washington and Pyongyang, the proactive attitude on Kim Jong-un's part definitely reflects an open attitude towards future talks with South Korea as well as the U.S. Lee Jong-hyun, Arirang News.
While prioritizing dialogue and reconciliation with the North, President Moon Jae-in is also firm on being prepared to respond to possible threats. Before the newly commissioned officers at the Korea Military Academy graduation ceremony, he emphasized the importance of building a strong armed forces. Woo Jung-hee shares with us his remarks.
Dialogue with North Korea is a must for peace and prosperity on the Korean peninsula, but developing stronger capabilities to stand up against the North Korean threat is also crucial. That's what South Korean President Moon Jae-in stressed at a graduation ceremony at the Korea Military Academy on Tuesday, just a day after Seoul's special envoys met with North Korean leader Kim Jong-un in Pyongyang.
우리는 한반도 비핵화를 위해 북한과 대화해야 합니다. 그러나 동시에 우리는 북핵과 미사일 대응 능력을 조속히 그리고 실효적으로 구축하는 데 총력을 기울여야 합니다.
That is the defense reform South Korea's military authorities hope to achieve by 2022. Considering the security environment on the Korean peninsula as well as the decreasing population of South Korea, Seoul's military plans to reshuffle its military structure and adopt cutting-edge weapons systems to maximize combat efficiency. Constructing a three-pillar defense system that monitors movements in North Korea and detects and destroys incoming missiles from Pyongyang is also a part of the reforms.
4차 산업혁명 시대에 맞는 장비와 인력 체계, 새로운 국방 전략을 발전시켜 나가는 것은 우리에게 주어진 새로운 과제입니다. 국방개혁은 엄중한 안보 환경 속에서 더 이상 지체할 수 없는 국민의 명령이자 소명입니다.
The South Korean leader also promised to further strengthen the Seoul-Washington combined defense readiness posture, as well as earn support from the international community to pursue peace on the Korean peninsula. Woo Jung-hee, Arirang News.
Now for a comprehensive wrap-up of news briefing held by South Korea's chief special envoy to the North, we have live on the phone with us our chief Cheongwon correspondent, Moon Gun-young. Gun-young, what can you tell us at this point?
Right, Daniel. We have huge news. We saw at the top of the broadcast Chung Eui-yong, the special envoy's briefing to the South Korean public. The two Koreas have agreed to hold a third inter-Korean summit at the Truth Village of Panmunjom, the Peace House to be exact. Now, the Peace House sits on the South Korean side of Panmunjom in the demilitarized zone. They've also agreed to establish a hotline between the two leaders. So the two leaders, South Korea's Jaein and North Korea's Kim Jong-un, will have a direct contact point of each other to discuss easing military tensions on the Korean peninsula. Another huge news from North Korea is that Pyongyang has made clear its willingness to denuclearize and also made crystal clear that there is no need for the North to hold on to its nuclear weapons program if their sovereignty is guaranteed. South Korea's chief special envoy also relayed North Korean leader Kim Jong-un's readiness to hold open-hearted nuclear talks with the U.S. Of course, this is something the United States has been wanting for several weeks and months now, saying that North Korea must come to the nuclear talks and that it cannot give unconditional talks. Now, North Korea has said that it is ready to hold that talks with the United States to denuclearize and discuss normalizing relations between Pyongyang and Washington. Now, they vowed not to carry out any future nuclear test or intercontinental ballistic missile tests during this period of dialogue, so there will not be any more of those. And they've also promised not to use their conventional weapons against the South Koreans. What we're learning just now is that apparently North Korean leader Kim Jong-un has acknowledged the need or the desire of South Korea and the U.S. to carry out the joint military exercises, their joint military drills, at the end of April or sometime in April, which at the level which is similar to previous years. So North Korean leader Kim Jong-un acknowledged that he will understand the South Korea and U.S. joint drills taking place in April. That's also something very huge, as North Korea has time and time again has identified those drills as a preemptive attack on North Korea, and they've been quite against that. So that's another solution that we're seeing. So all in all, we've seen a number of huge breaking news come from the special envoy's bag full of news, who, after returning from North Korea, their 27-hour stay in North Korea, of course, experts will have to parse through this agreement, this announcement made by South Korea's chief special envoy, and we'll have to wait and see how this develops in the next 2 to 2.5 months until that inter-Korean summit, the third of its kind, happens between South Korean President Jaein and North Korean leader Kim Jong-un at the Truce Village of Panmunjom in April. Daniel.
Over in the United States, amid ongoing global trade jitters, a trade panel in that country said Washington suffered from imports of large-diameter welded pipe, enabling the Commerce Department to continue investigation into related anti-dumping and countervailing duties. Kim Hye-sung has the full story.
The U.S. International Trade Commission has voted to continue anti-dumping and subsidy investigations into imports of large-diameter welded pipe from Korea and 5 other countries. The Commission said Monday local time that a U.S. industry is materially injured or threatened by large-diameter welded pipe imports from Korea, Canada, China, Greece, India, and Turkey that are allegedly sold in the U.S. at below-market prices or are being unfairly subsidized by their respective governments. Imports of the welded pipes, which can be used to transport oil and gas, totaled over $440 million from the 6 countries in 2016, according to the U.S. Commerce Department. It estimated that Korea shipped over $150 million in 2016, with dumping margins of around 16% and 20%. The ITC looked over the case after several U.S. steel producers filed a petition that they suffered from large-diameter welded pipe imports. Monday's decision means the U.S. Commerce Department can continue with its anti-dumping and countervailing duty investigations.
The ITC vote doesn't automatically lead to action like setting quotas or tariffs, but it backs President Trump's push for steel import tariff measures and gives additional pressure to Korean companies. What Korea can do now is to hold bilateral consultation with the U.S. and continue its outreach efforts so investigation doesn't end up in real trade regulation measures.
The U.S. Department of Commerce is scheduled to make its preliminary subsidy decision by around April 16th and its anti-dumping duty determination by around June 29th. Kim Hae-sung, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, the nation's trade minister is visiting the U.S. for the second time in a week to try and convince Washington to exempt South Korea from planned tariffs on steel imports. Hee-jung will meet with government officials and lawmakers during his four-day trip, including U.S. Trade Representative Robert Lighthizer. According to Seoul's trade ministry, Kim will continue to deliver the message he conveyed during his last visit, that steel from Korea does not threaten the U.S. industry, and highlight exports to the country dropped 31% since 2014. The ministry added Korean steelmakers are contributing to the American economy with $5.7 billion worth of investments and 33,000 jobs. The labor union of GM Korea held a series of protests today. Kim Mo-kyun zooms in on the response to the U.S. automaker's decision to close its Gunsan factory last week, which led to thousands of workers being laid off.
More than a dozen members of GM Korea's labor union gathered in front of the firm's second largest shareholder, the Korea Development Bank in Western Seoul on Tuesday, demanding the reversal of GM Korea's decision to shut down its Gunsan assembly plant.
The shutdown of the factory crippled the entire city of Gunsan. We asked for the firm to take back its decision. We asked the government and the firm to engage in three-party talks with us and discuss crucial problems such as management and layoffs.
Some are also staging rallies in front of the National Tax Service, the National Assembly, and the U.S. Embassy in Seoul. The protesters are demanding that these institutes allow the union to participate in the due diligence review, that they carry out a special tax audit, and that a new bill is created to prevent General Motors from leaving the country after taking advantage of the local unit. Despite the hurdles that remain, there are still high expectations that the two sides could find some common ground. The labor union and the management of GM Korea are still attempting to thrash out a deal as they prepare to face their fourth round of wage negotiations on Wednesday. If GM's headquarters decide not to accept the debt-for-equity swap proposal for GM Korea's accumulated loan of some $2.8 billion, the Korean unit of the carmaker will have to find other ways to make up the $2.1 billion shortfall by the end of April. During the third round of wage negotiations, GM Korea had proposed a wage freeze and cuts in bonuses and some other welfare benefits in order to meet the conditions for its parent company to agree to produce new models in Korea, but those demands were rejected by the union last week. Meanwhile, Korea's finance minister Kim Dong-yeon said Tuesday that the government and GM Korea are currently in the process of deciding the right time and scope for due diligence, adding that the government will decide whether to financially support the firm once the investigation is complete. Kim Mo-kyun, Arirang News.
Consumer prices in Korea climbed 1.4% last month. A cold snap prompted agricultural and fisheries to become more costly. Price increases in lodging also played a part. Kim Ji-yeon breaks down the digits for us.
Consumer price increases in Korea were in the 1% range for the fifth straight month of February. Statistics Korea says its consumer price index jumped 1.4% compared to the same period last year, a faster rate of increase than the 1% on-year gain recorded in January. The core inflation rate, which excludes volatile food and oil prices, was at 1.2% on year. Prices of food, drinks, and accommodation increased while communication prices dropped. In particular, prices of agricultural and fisheries products spiked due to a cold snap last month, climbing a whopping 3.5% on year, the biggest rate of increase in 5 months. Price rises in the services sector also pushed up consumer prices in February, climbing 1.7% compared to the same period last year, particularly those related to food and lodging. The consumer price index has been hovering near the government's target range of 2% between February and September last year, mainly due to higher petroleum prices and the low base effect due to a nationwide discount on electricity bills the previous year. But it fell into the 1% range since October last year as prices of vegetables stabilized before soaring last month. Kim Ji-yeon, Arirang News.
Indonesia, located right in between the mainland of Southeast Asia and Australia, this pivotal trading hub is also the region's biggest economy. Among foreigners devoted to business ventures in that country are Koreans. They are not simply driven to leave their mark there, they are also striving to give something back. Cha Sang-mi files this report from Jakarta.
Indonesia boasts the largest economy in Southeast Asia and is one of the world's major emerging markets. And it seems that several Korean firms are contributing to Indonesia's economic growth and employing its people. Sure, Koreans are spread out across the world, but Indonesia is one country where they find themselves at home. Some 50,000 Koreans live and work in Indonesia. A shoe manufacturer on the island of Java currently employs some 40,000 locals. And the head of the company, a Korean, sees his company's business there as a win-win situation.
Indonesia has the biggest population in Southeast Asia at some 260 million. But since they lack the industrial technology to hire so many people, there's also a lack of jobs.
Shin said that Indonesia's young and abundant workforce and relatively low wages are reasons why investors see merits in the market.
I already working here 12 years, and then I feel confidence and I feel happy work together with Korean, especially South Korean.
And with Korean pop culture and cuisine making huge inroads in Indonesia, a firm that sells and distributes Korean food products has found a way to offer the country not only highly sought-after goods, but some socially meaningful services.
We have been sponsoring Indonesian children suffering from cardiac diseases for the past 25 years. We're also helping people with leprosy and those displaced by flooding. Corporate social responsibility is our family business.
The owner expressed gratitude to Indonesia for enabling him to expand his business and work with locals who share the same mindset. But most importantly, he seemed to be thrilled to see the locals enjoying Korean food.
Because I really love Korean food, every time I run out of kimchi, I come to this market to get it.
These two companies are just a small part of the Korean business presence on the Indonesian archipelago. More than 2,500 private businesses in a range of sectors from the garment industry to education coexist with the locals, irrespective of language, nationality, or religion. Cha Sang-mi, Arirang News, Jakarta.
Back here in Indonesia, a prominent Korean politician is the latest respected figure to make headlines by being accused of sexual assault. Police prepare to launch an investigation into Anni Jeong. According to our Kim Min-ji, concerns grow over how this revelation could impact the upcoming local elections and if there are more such heinous acts to be exposed in the political arena.
The Me Too movement has hit Korean politics. The now former governor of Chungcheongnam-do province, Anni Jeong, has been accused of sexually assaulting one of his female secretaries. The victim, Kim Jaein, appeared on local media Monday and claimed she was raped 4 times between last June and this February. Kim said there were other victims as well. Following the news report, An apologized and announced in a Facebook post that he was resigning as governor and would stop all political activities. The political repercussions have been huge, given that An was a rising figure in the ruling Democratic Party of Korea and widely considered a potential presidential candidate. The ruling bloc moved quickly to minimize the harm to its image by expelling him from the party. An's downfall comes at a critical time in Korean politics, with the June local elections less than 100 days away. Pundits say it will inevitably affect public sentiment in Chungcheongnam-do province, where An served 2 terms, and will be a blow to potential ruling party candidates who were planning to run on his policies or hoping to get a boost from his popularity. However, it's still too early to tell whether this is a game changer.
The Me Too movement is not a political issue, but rather an issue of gender equality. And in this case, we're talking about a crime based on authority. At this moment in time, no party will be able to use the incident for their political benefit, since another case could erupt in their own party, in which case the boomerang effect would be even larger. However, the ruling party could take a hit, since An was known for his young and clean image, and because they promoted him as a potential presidential candidate, they can't escape the moral issue.
Watchers say An's case could be the first of many more to come, especially in a male-dominated sector. For now, the parties have vowed to thoroughly screen potential candidates and come up with concrete measures to encourage victims to speak up and to deal with the culprits. Kim Min-ji, Arirang News.
The 2018 Paralympic Winter Games kick off this week. Today, dozens of Korean competitors and coaches, together with participants from Czech Republic, arrived at the Athletes Village in Pyeongchang. Park Ji-won takes us to the welcoming ceremony.
A total of 62 South Korean athletes, coaches, and officials who will participate in the Pyeongchang 2018 Paralympic Winter Games were officially welcomed with a greeting ceremony Tuesday morning. The South Korean team will compete in 6 sports: ice hockey, biathlon, cross-country skiing, snowboarding, alpine skiing, and curling during the 10-day event in Gangneung, Jonguns, and Pyeongchang, Gangwon-do Province. Athletes from the Czech Republic were also greeted at the ceremony. However, South Korean athletes competing in alpine skiing and curling could not attend due to their training schedule. South Korea is sending its largest ever Paralympic squad to the Games, with 36 athletes and 47 coaches, directors, and other officials hoping to make the top 10 with a target of 1 gold, 1 silver, and 2 bronze medals. This Paralympics will be the largest in size, with a total of 570 athletes from 49 countries competing for 80 gold medals. The U.S. registered 68 athletes, which is the largest number, followed by 52 from Canada and 38 from Japan. North Korea is also sending 2 cross-country skiing athletes for the Paralympics, which kicks off this Friday. Park Ji-won, Arirang News.
Time to turn to Michelle back at the Weather Center for the updates we need. Michelle, it's really warm these days, but only while the sun is up. So, Michelle, it looks like we have to go back on our promise of packing our winter clothes, especially when the sun is down in the evenings. We need to brace ourselves for the possible changes, a drastic decline in the mercury, right?
That's right, Daniel. Now, in fact, it was warm enough that you saw a lot of spring fashion on the streets today. But be sure to put something else on for the chilly evening as the temperature falls back into the single digits. By tomorrow morning, Seoul is expected to be at 1 degree Celsius, while Daegu and Busan makes it down to 2 and 5 degrees. It'll be cloudier than today, but it'll be still warm, with Seoul rising up to 9 degrees, Gwangju and Busan higher at 12 and 10 degrees. However, into the evening, the southern coast will begin to see some rain. Now, the rain starting tomorrow night is expected to wet the whole country by Thursday and bring a chill back into the air, but don't get too upset because we are expecting to have perfect spring weather from next week and on. I'll leave you with the weather conditions around the world.
Once again, it looks like it's time for us to wrap things up wherever you may be tuning in from. Thank you for staying with us.